Ladies and gentlemen, 4 survivors have now quit the liaison panel for the National Grooming Gang inquiry. This was one of the most anticipated moments of the week, as many wanted to see how Prime Minister Keir Starmer would respond. Earlier this morning, one of the survivors spoke publicly on national television, claiming that Jess Phillips walked away from them, grinned, and showed no concern for the victims or the inquiry itself. In Parliament, the Prime Minister faced intense questioning. 4 survivors, all victims of grooming gangs, have resigned from the panel, saying they've lost complete confidence in the government's handling of the inquiry. One survivor, Fiona, said, "Being dismissed and contradicted by a minister when you're telling the truth takes you right back to that feeling of not being believed all over again." Her question was simple. What's the point of speaking up if we're just going to be called liars? The Prime Minister responded by describing the grooming scandal as one of the worst of our time. He promised that the inquiry will not be watered down and will examine ethnicity and religion as part of its scope. He added that Dame Louise Casey will now support the work of the inquiry and that justice will be served. But few were convinced. Opposition members accused the government of briefing against survivors, creating a toxic environment for victims who have already suffered enough. Elizabeth, a survivor abused in Rotherham from the age of 14, said, "The government has created a toxic environment for survivors." Yet instead of compassion, Labour MPs responded with heckles and shouts of shame when her words were read out in the Commons. The Prime Minister insisted that survivors would remain at the heart of the inquiry, but his record tells a different story. He previously said a national inquiry wasn't even necessary, and Labour MPs cheered. They voted against it 3 times. Now, with multiple survivors stepping away, many believe the inquiry is being deliberately weakened, particularly around the issue of racial and religious motivations behind the abuse. Survivors are calling it what they believe it to be, a cover-up. The Prime Minister argued that a judge-led inquiry would take too long and could interfere with ongoing criminal investigations. But it's been 10 months since the inquiry was first promised, and there is still no chair in place. One of the final candidates has already withdrawn, leaving only a former police officer, someone the victims say they cannot trust. They are demanding a judge, someone truly independent to lead the investigation. Then this morning, a 4th survivor, Jade, spoke out on Good Morning Britain. Her testimony was heartbreaking. She said, "We sat in front of Jess Phillips and poured our hearts out. We were emotional, angry, and she just walked away. She smirked. She didn't care." Jade said she once had hope in this inquiry, that Baroness Casey's report would finally bring change. But that hope, she said, is now gone. Everything, she claimed, is happening behind closed doors, without transparency or accountability. Another survivor suggested the inquiry should be led by someone completely outside the UK, someone untouched by political pressure and the institutions that have failed them for decades. The situation has now become critical. Survivors are walking away, the inquiry has lost credibility, and the Prime Minister's promises are ringing hollow. Time is running out. The question now is simple. Who do you believe? The survivors or the government?